Welcome back to another segment of Retro Reverie, and this week we are doing something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and that is creating the ultimate Windows XP gaming PC. This PC, however, is a little different from your usual retro build. Instead of going for period-correct components, I actually aimed around 2011 to 2012. I did this for a couple of reasons. One, it future-proofs the build. If I ever want to turn it into a server or a NAS, I have much better components that will be up for the task. Most of my favorite games from childhood came out between 2008 and 2012, so I wanted to play stuff from the late 90s up until about 2010, and having these newer components kind of gave me that wiggle room. The great thing about this era of components is that they're still officially supporting Windows XP, and a lot of the manufacturers still have their Windows XP drivers up on their websites for these components. Now on the downside, we kind of trade the most authentic experience possible, but for me, it still is a very authentic experience because at my age, during 2012, this PC would have been something that I would have drooled over. Another goal of this build was to use either parts I already owned or sourced from used markets. And I'm happy to report that every component in this build, except for the CPU cooler, is used and was bought for just around $30 or so. This was probably one of the cheapest and most capable value-to-money gaming PCs I've ever put together. All of the parts either came from eBay or from shopgoodwill.com, and during this build, I discovered shopgoodwill.com for computer components. Disclaimer, before you go on there and start swooping everything up, there's a couple of caveats with Shop Goodwill. The shipping and handling is atrociously expensive. On average, you're going to be paying about $20 of extra fees. However, the bidding prices are really low, so a lot of times, depending on the item you're bidding on, you can get a really good deal even with that really high shipping and handling. The other thing to keep in mind with Shop Goodwill is that when you place a bid on an item and you win that auction, you are legally obligated to purchase it. If you don't fulfill the payment within 7 days of winning the auction, they'll either ban you from the website, or they put very vaguely that they will take legal action against you. What that legal action is, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but use this website at your own risk and be careful, but if you are careful and you know what you're looking for and you know what you're doing, you can find some really cool stuff. I want to get something out of the way. I have already been asked in real life, why Windows XP on this device? Why not just do a virtual machine? It'd be so much more power efficient. It's not about easier. Whenever I was researching things like how to get Steam working on Windows XP, there was always some guy in there like, you should really upgrade to a newer version of Windows. And to those people, you're missing the point. The point is that I'm trying to capture a moment from my childhood and experience things in a certain way. And if I had it running Windows 10 and a virtual machine, I would know that, and it just wouldn't feel the same. This is a retro computing channel. You guys get it? And if you don't get it, why are you here? Go watch a Linus Tech Tips video where they make fun of Linux or something. For the motherboard, I chose the P8P67 Pro Revision 3.1 from Asus. Now the reason why I went with this board and not something a little lower end is purely because I got a really good deal on this board from Shop Goodwill. Like I said, I got it before shipping and handling for $7. And it even came with 8 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance RAM and the second generation i5, which ended up being essential to getting this build running. For a processor, I chose the Core i7-3770. Everything I was reading was pointing to the 3770K. However, the 3770 I was able to get for $30, and the 3770K was like a minimum of $60. And for a 5% performance gain, that just wasn't worth it to me. The CPU cooler is actually the only brand new component within the device. I went with the AK400 because for $30, the performance you get out of this thing is insane, and it works with 1155 socket processors as well as 1151 and 1150, and, you know, all your modern stuff as well. So it's an all-around great thing to have. For graphics, we're going with the NVIDIA GTX 750 Ti. The reason why I chose this is because it has 2 GB of RAM, and we're only going single card, so 2 GB is going to perform a lot better without SLI. I considered SLI, but also SLI would have ended up being a lot more expensive. Sure, it would have been more authentic and arguably would have been a lot cooler, but another thing with this card is that it doesn't have PCI power, which made this build a lot simpler. I also really wanted the adaptability that this card would have. Like I said, I want to run things not only from the late 90s, but also up to 2010. So that 2 GB of VRAM is really going to give me the headroom I need to play all the different games I want to on this system. For RAM, we have Corsair Vengeance Low Profile, 16 GB at 1600 MHz, and yes, I know, you don't have to stop your click and clacking. I know that Windows XP 32-bit can't utilize all that. However, it does benefit from dual channel, and it will further future-proof the system in case I want to convert it to a server. It'll already have the 16 GB that I would need in order for that to, you know, perform well. Also have the Sound Blaster Audigy from Creative Labs, and I freaking love this thing. This is probably the most period correct component in the entire build. I think it came out around 2005. And it sounds amazing. I mean, I wasn't sure it was going to work, but I slotted it in there, installed the driver, which is still up on Creative's website, and it works great. I love it. I've never had a sound card, and I've never had a Sound Blaster, so that was really exciting. For storage, we're running a Samsung SSD with 250 GB. We're running it in IDE mode because, quite honestly, I have absolutely no idea how to get SATA drivers installed during the Windows XP install. If anybody knows, if you could kindly and quite simply explain it down in the comments, I would appreciate it. I grew up using XP. I didn't grow up working on XP computers, so that stuff doesn't come second nature. I've just been reading and trying to figure stuff out in the modern day. For the power supply, we just have this used EVGA 450 watt power supply. Apparently EVGA power supplies blow up. This one hasn't. I don't know if it was a part of that. I tested it before putting it in the system, and it has been working great since I got it. It was also a really good snag off of shopgoodwill.com. And for the case that I'm putting it all in, it is going into this Antec P7 Silent that housed my very first PC build back in 2020. It was really dirty, and we had to do a lot of cleaning to get it up to snuff, but it's a nice little subdued case. I wish it had a glass panel. There is a version of it with the glass panel, but I don't have that one. I have the closed up one, but eventually we might do a case swap. You know, it was something I already had, so I might as well use it. And now to get into the unfortunate meat and potatoes, the onslaught of issues that I had. This build was easily the most problematic computer I have ever put together. So the first thing that went wrong, so the P8, P6, 7 out of the box does not support 3rd generation Intel Core processors. Even though they share the same 1155 socket as 2nd generation, without a BIOS update, this board is not booting with that i7 in there. This is where the 2nd generation i5 really came in handy, because I was able to put that in there instead. So I downloaded the revised BIOS from Asus's website, tried to flash it, and it failed. In fact, I tried every single version of the BIOS for this board, and it failed every single time. I installed Windows and tried to use the AI suite to do it in Windows, and it still failed. It went through as if it succeeded, but then when you go into BIOS, you still see that the version number hasn't changed. At that point, I was stumped. But then I realized something really weird that I probably wouldn't have realized had I not gone through and installed Windows XP and tried to use AI Suite to install the BIOS, the driver referred to the motherboard model as the P8 P67 Pro. However, AI Suite referred to my motherboard as the P8 P67 Pro revision 3.1. That is a different motherboard. I know it sounds like it's the same motherboard. It is not. It has the same model number. I mean, the revision 3.1 is physically a different release, and it has different firmware. So, going to Asus's website and looking up the P8 P67 Pro revision 3.1 yielded a different download page with different BIOS numbers, and so I downloaded the 3602 BIOS, go to flash it in the Easy Flash 2, and voila, it worked. I go to restart the machine, and blue screen. Windows has been corrupted. When we went to reassemble, I put in the i7 and it booted. We went into BIOS. So naturally, I did what any reasonable computer tech would do, and I was just going to reinstall Windows XP. I wanted to get footage of it anyway. I didn't end up filming it the first time around. And then that blue screened. And then it wouldn't detect the flash drive unless I enabled the SSD and then like reordered it in the BIOS, and then it would just blue screen every single time. So on a whim, I check the SATA configuration and see that it's been changed back to the SATA controllers and not IDE. So I change it to IDE, I go to reset, and still a blue screen. Oh, but I remember, there are actually 2 places in the BIOS that you have to change from SATA to IDE for it to actually do that, because Asus can't make up their mind. So, after redoing everything to IDE and restarting, installer blue screened. But weirdly enough, the old Windows installation was working again. It wasn't corrupted after all, it just wouldn't start, not in IDE mode. Of course. And that's where we're at now. All the drivers are installed. Okay, weirdly enough, after this strange IDE problem that I had, the NVIDIA graphics driver disappeared. It didn't like corrupt or stop working, it just was no longer on the computer. I don't know what happened to it, so I had to reinstall that. I really can't say enough how much of a problem child this computer was. There was a point where I actually ended up having to boot into a live Linux Mint environment in order to wipe my drive, which was actually my mistake because the solid state I had a previous install of Linux on it, so it was in ext4, and thus, Windows XP couldn't see that at all. So there was a problem where I couldn't see the install drive, and most builds don't take me, outside of planning and all that, they don't take me any more than a day. And this Windows XP 2012 gaming monster took me a week to actually complete, let alone doing this video. Right now it's almost 5 a.m. I'm trying to finish this video before the weekend, and I'm really happy with the result. So without further delay, let's just chill out and play some games. Man, it's playing pretty good. This is actually way better than it really ever has been. This even looks really nice. Wow, that escalated quickly. Man, this is how this game was supposed to be played, though. Let's just explore. We don't take risks in this town. Almost dead. We're gonna need. Forgot that I have the Atronach stone. So I don't... Wow, I healed nothing from that spell. I might have made a bad build. So what did I learn from this whole project? Well, I learned that I love Windows XP. As much trouble as it was getting it to run on hardware that even officially supported it, when it finally booted up for that first time and I got to play those games and I got to put that Fallout disc in the disk drive and install those games from my childhood, man, it felt good. It felt real good. Well, hopefully in the future, when I'm putting together another retro PC, I hope to do it with more period correct hardware. In this case, I didn't really have the budget or the resources for that, and this was the happy middle ground that I have. I now have a really competent machine that, honestly, we could probably put Windows 10 on here and test out, modern games and see how they fare. I mean, the 750 Ti is definitely going to be the bottleneck there, but I'm sure there's a lot of things this computer can do, and it can definitely serve as some sort of NAS or, some network device in the future if I ever get tired of it, but I have it permanently set up under my desk now. It is running to the CRT, which is right next to my main LCD monitor for my main rig, and they are running congruently together. So I don't see myself really getting tired of this anytime soon. My main plan for this computer is to play old games. Some of them I'm nostalgic for, other ones will be my first time playing them, and do retrospectives on those games. Do it the proper way, get the real experience, kind of see what the big whoop was back in the day. In a recent video posted by Josh Strife Hayes, he's talking about EverQuest and how, it's not really all that exciting because it's removed from the context that made it exciting. Well, it's harder to do that with MMOs, of course, but I like to do that with, the games from my childhood and games that were out during that time that I just didn't get the chance to play, and really put myself into that environment, try to simulate the context within my own head, and I find that to be very enjoyable. So let me know what classic games you'd like me to play on the XP machine. If you have any ideas for what to do with the XP machine next, like maybe there's a cool Linux distro or something, but maybe we'll put Windows 10 on it and try to run Cyberpunk or something. But I'm really happy with the way it is right now. It was definitely worth the trouble, and it was worth the late night to document the process of making it. If you enjoyed the video and you would like to take the time to subscribe or like the video, that is much appreciated. And speaking of that, holy wow, the sheer amount of you that have shown up in the last couple weeks is awe-inspiring. When I put up my first video, I was intending on just kind of doing an idea every month and just seeing where they went. But they took off so quickly that I'm pushing myself to make videos more often because I want to keep giving you guys stuff and seeing that those subscriber counts go up and all that. It's amazing. Literally blew my every expectation out of the water. I was just doing this for fun as a sort of outlet hobby to, give me an alternative to what I'm doing every single day, which, if you don't know, my main profession, I do work in IT and computer repair, but I am going to school for creative writing and studying literature and all that. So, I've been kind of burnt out on my usual love, which is fantasy books, and I just did a huge writing workshop, and I've been needing kind of a different way to use my creative muscles, and this channel has been a great outlet for that, and you guys seem to be enjoying it. So yeah, thanks. I can't wait to see how this channel grows and what happens in the future, and maybe weekly uploads can be something I can commit to in the future. Right now, not really. I can't really commit to that, even though I'm pushing myself right now. But, I can only make so many videos. I'm going to eventually run out of devices that I possess to make videos about, and I'm going to have to start being creative with what I already have. So, Anyway, thank you so much for watching and sticking out to the end. I hope that you found this entertaining or helpful, or, just you can poke fun at me for not knowing the ins and outs of old Windows installations that existed before I was intelligent enough to do anything with them. So, anyway, have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching.